Hey, this is Christian Buckley, Microsoft Regional Director and Office Apps and Services MVP. I'm interviewing Asif Rehmani, who is also an Office Apps and Services MVP and the CEO of Visual SP, on the topic of getting the best use out of Microsoft 365 applications as part of the ESPC community. Asif, thanks for talking with me today.
Pleasure to always. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, this is a great topic. I know that talk as long as you want on this. I think people are asked these kinds of questions all the time about getting the most out of it. So here's question number one.
Okay.
As a company or as an individual, do people have to use all of the Microsoft 365 applications to really get value out of the platform?
Yeah, as you can imagine, this exact same question I've gotten tons of times, right? And the analogy that comes in my mind when I think about this question is a Swiss Army knife. Back in the day, I used to have one just dangling actually at my hip at times. I thought it was pretty cool, long time ago. But when you buy a Swiss Army knife, what are you thinking about? We used to refer to even SharePoint back in the day before Office 365 as a Swiss Army knife. Are you going to be using the can opener all the time, or the twisty thingy, or the knife all the time? Obviously not. You're usually getting it for, at least in my case, the knife as a Boy Scout at that time. And I got it for that purpose, but I use the other things as needed.
Right.
So this exact same thing happens and should happen for all companies who are going for Microsoft Office 365, thinking, all right, well, we need a wonderful, awesome search mechanism throughout all the digital workspaces that we have within regular productivity applications and outside. So let's go with Microsoft Office 365. Or we need a wonderful email messaging system. Well, Outlook has been the case. Let's go with that. But that happens. You always approach it from a different way, and then you end up using other things. Do you have to? I feel, unfortunately, some people and some companies feel that if we don't use all of them, we're wasting money or we're not utilizing everything that's there. And I think
we used to talk about that all the time, though, about like if you're not with Office, like if you're not using the latest version of Office when you're using SharePoint and the latest version of Exchange, like all of the lights it's not lighting up. You're not utilizing kind of all of the feature integration. So that was actually part of the messaging.
It was, and I drank that Kool-Aid too, actually, at times, but I have to think about what's best for my customers. And honestly, what's best for my customers is what is moving the needle in terms of saving money, making money, saving time, increasing productivity, reducing support tickets, anything that's very, very substantial and specific. And anytime as a company I'm doing things that don't move the needle in a direction that I wanted to, I'm wasting time. And I'm pretty protective about my own time. And I think our customers are the same way. So I always tell them, listen, what is your intent? And I'm sure you've heard this before. Based on that intent, what is the best tool for that? And just focus on that. Other things come up, you start using that, but don't force yourself to use everything day one.
Just to fall back on your analogy, going back to the Boy Scout, because it's the same thing. I had that knife, that can opener, useless on that knife, But what a Boy Scout's bringing canned food out on a hike anyway. So Anyway, so question number two. When Microsoft releases a new product or service, there's often an overlap with existing tools. Why is this, and what should people do to get, again, that's that first question, the most out of these new and old offerings when there's that overlap?
You're saying that Microsoft has tools that do the exact same thing? What? It's news to me.
It's shocking, I know.
Shocking. What are you talking about? It happens all the time. Obviously, we're so immune to it. I don't even think about it anymore. It's like, yeah, of course it's going to happen. Teams was made after Yammer was purchased. Planner was made after Microsoft Project existed for a long time.
And Azure DevOps.
There you go.
On top of both those things.
And speaking of other applications, To-Do application, which came from the Wunderlist purchase and all, right? And then that can replace Outlook tasks and all that stuff. And that's going to continue to happen. All these things are going to continue to happen. I think the idea has always been, what do our customers need? And does our current tool set provide that or not? And if it doesn't, can we expand it or not? And if we can't, we have to make something else for that other, it could be SMB versus enterprise. It could be a specific industry versus a different industry that Microsoft is servicing. I mean, We have to remember that Microsoft is a huge company. Uh, Another analogy that comes to mind is Stream. When Stream was introduced, people like me were wondering, don't we already have the video portal? What's going on? But Stream was born outside of Office 365, right? It was brought into Microsoft Office 365 afterwards. But I'm so glad it was. Transcription came in, face recognition, all that kind of stuff that we take for advantage right now. Now, having said all that stuff, once again, then you start to wonder, okay, Microsoft is always going to continue to do that. What do I do as an admin, as a CIO, CTO? Where do I use certain things and ignore the other things? Or when there's overlap, how do I guide my users to what to use when, right? That question always comes up as a follow-up to this one. What do I do? Well, there are certain things that are pretty well clear cut. For example, if you are a big company, over 10,000 people, and you have to use a messaging forum type of workspace, you have to use Yammer. You can't use Teams. If you are a company, and I'm thinking about Planner right now versus Project, which is a small in nature, Project is overkill. I just need some quick Trello, Asana type of thing, but I want to stick with the Microsoft stack, you use Planner. There's always going to be overlap, but you have to decide what's best for you and not go for overkill, in my opinion. You can always graduate to the next thing, but go with small first and grow from there.
Yeah, and of course, one thing that Microsoft does think about, it's a huge benefit to the way Microsoft thinks about developing software, is they do an amazing job, and we're always going to ask for more, but of cross workload integrations. So even if you have one team that needs that more, I'm former project manager, has project or project online, other teams it's overkill, they're using Planner. There are ways that you can, push information. There are integrations that can be done. Microsoft has a roadmap for that, the task to bring those things closer together. So you shouldn't have to make a decision about use the right tool and then still have the ability to go in and automate aspects of that and integrate with that. And they write to the graph in a similar way, and you can utilize data that way. So that's something that is a real strength of the Microsoft ecosystem as well.
Absolutely, it is. Choices are good. Too many choices sometimes do throw us off and kind of make us, just, it gets us to a point where you become paranoid. You become like, oh, I don't know if I want to make a choice. I might make the wrong choice. But not making a choice, I think, is the worst choice, in my opinion. You have to start. But you have to start with the variables at hand right now, and also a year, at least in my opinion, a year in the future. Beyond that is hard to see. But with that, keeping in mind, just like you said, you pick a tool, you go with it. When it comes time to integrate or upgrade or whatever else, there's always paths to do that.
Well, there's always that's an issue with ISVs. You're out developing products. No customer wants to feel boxed in, like as because an interesting thing happens, as you fully understand, is when end users are brand new to a technology and they have these questions like, this is perfect, is exactly what I need. Once they start using that and their needs mature, their use of the technology matures, suddenly they realize, hey, I am going to use that corkscrew. I am going to use the tweezers in that utility knife. So things, those requirements change over time, and you want to have the options to be able to move sideways, move up, expand.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, question number 3. How should organizations stay informed? Another question that I hear all the time. How do we stay informed, and how do we keep our people informed of the changes that are happening to Microsoft 365?
Yeah, that's a very good question also. It used to be, for those of us back in the day where we were in the static SharePoint environment, things did not change until a huge Surface Pack came in, or the whole technology change went from SharePoint 2010 to SharePoint 2013 to 2016. Those days are gone. And now we're struggling with this whole SaaS model. I mean, I shouldn't say struggling as much anymore. I think we've all gotten used to it and gotten better at it. In my opinion, there's the two type of changes. One that affect admins and super users and people who are really, really digging into things. And there's others which do affect the end users, which are sometimes very minute in nature. Well, the button has moved from here to there. The text is now different. The way you set it out of office is different, things like that. But I think we have to treat both of them separately, in my opinion. So over communicate internally for the super users and admins and others who are helping other users. They need to know way before anybody else what has changed, how does it affect you, does it affect you at all, should you ignore it or should you do something about it, and then how do you learn more about that. In my opinion, and I'm pretty biased on this thing, that you want to give them that information in context of their environment. So you show it to them somehow contextually so they understand what has changed. For example, a pop-up appears or a small inline help is there or some information right there on the screen so you can see what has changed. And Microsoft has been doing that also with these pop-ups and everything else. Now, the other side of things, the end users, I would say sometimes under communicate, because sometimes when you communicate too often, and I've seen that with end users and even in my personal life, who I consider end users like my parents and all, that you want to give them the information that they can handle. Don't over communicate with things that they should not be worrying about. When you start doing that, then you have questions that come up that are not really relevant anymore, because you end up saying anyway, well, don't worry about it. It's okay. Well, why did you tell me to begin with? Now I'm all worried.
Right.
So sometimes it's okay to under communicate, but you have to have this division, in my opinion. And
That's one
once
of the
you have
reasons.
that, yeah,
I was just going to say that's one of the reasons why I really like piloting of this capability, because then you can show it to those end users in context of
yes,
their current workloads, and so
exactly.
you experiment so you fully understand that technology, and then you go and say, well, here's how it actually fits, because then you can have that conversation of this replaces the way you were doing that, or
Yeah,
this just adds to the way that you're already doing that. If
you
you
know,
don't know
there's
that difference, it's hard to communicate.
yeah. And Christian, I know you know this thing, but I know other folks maybe listening to this right now might not be aware that there's these technology, or not technology, there's these concept of, for example, just in time, which Toyota back in the day, a long time ago, made famous, or a little bit more recently in the last couple of decades, learning in the flow of work with a person like Josh Bersin, if you're familiar with him, he made really famous the how do you learn in the flow of work instead of stepping out of it. But these concepts humanly just have always existed. It's just like we didn't never put it into words as to what you call it and how do you deploy it, how do you manifest it. When you start manifesting it, it just feels natural. It's like right now I'm here and I have my information here. I don't have to go looking for it somewhere else to get the information that I need. It's learning the flow of work, getting support and governance guidelines and policies that I need to know just in time. Just like that, the changes that are happening within the digital workspace, whether it's Microsoft making those changes or whether it's my company making those changes should be apparent to me as I am doing my work, not in an email inbox where I have, there's so much crap in there that I'm just ignoring most of it anyway. It just be when I'm thinking about it. It should be in my face at that time. And that's the contextual micro learning mechanism. Just get me what I need to know and let me do my task.
Well, Asif, I know this is you're gonna be well. You've got a whole session on it, so there is more to discuss about this. It's an important topic, and I know you write on some of these subtopics all the time. But I really appreciate your time and talking today. And for those that are watching the conference, enjoy the rest of the day. And Asif, have a great day.
Thanks for having me. Take care.